Okay, guys, I've got a super exciting bike here for you. I've been pumped for this bike since I heard about the announcement of it. This is the brand new Adventure M from Aventon. This is a mid-drive bike. They are finally using the A100 motor on another bike other than the Rambless. This bike is going to be absolutely awesome with that mid-drive motor, fat tires, in this just brand new design with some really cool features that we've seen on some of the other adventure bikes, but in a mid-drive setup. I think this could potentially be a true fat tire mountain bike. But today we're going to do the initial review on it, and we're going to go over all the details of what you get on this bike from spec. I am so pumped for this. You guys are going to be really excited to see the technology that Aventon has put on this bike. Let's not waste any more time. Let's start going over the details because I've got some rain coming down and I'm hoping to be able to beat the rain or ride away from it. Let's go ahead. Let's dive in. So first things first, the most important thing on this bike is the motor. This is the A100 motor that we saw on the Rambless. I absolutely fell in love with this motor the first time that I ever rode the Rambless. And I was wondering when Aventon was going to start putting that motor on other bikes. Well, about a year later, they finally did it, and they put it on this Adventure M, and I think it's a perfect bike for them to put this on because it's kind of like a mountain bike style bike, but with fat tires. So instead of this being like a cruiser style bike like the adventure bikes have kind of been over the years, with this mid-drive motor, I think this bike is going to be completely capable of true single track trail riding. But that begs the question, will this be as good as the other adventure bikes at just cruising around town, going on gravel roads and some dirt roads? Is it going to be the best of both worlds? Well, at $2,699, this bike definitely has a large price point, but I think you're getting some technology in here that a lot of you are going to be excited about. This motor produces 100 Newton meters of torque, 250 watts of sustained power with a peak of 750 watts. Now, if you're used to a rear hub motor, that may not sound like a lot, but with a mid-drive motor, the torque is absolutely outrageous. And being that it's a mid-drive motor, it's got a dual-sided torque sensor. So every single pedal stroke is precisely input into the motor to give you the best responsive motor that you can possibly have. If you're really going to truly do mountain biking with this or go over some technical terrain, you need a mid-drive motor like this. A rear hub motor will work, but mid-drives are the way to go for mountain biking. And I think that's what's going to set this bike apart. Now, before we get out on a ride, I want to go over something really quick. This shifter is absolutely awesome. It's brand new to Aventon, and this is an electronic shifter. It still has a cable, so it's not wireless, but it's just an electrical cable that runs down through the frame, all the way down back over to here. And back behind here is a Magene branded module that the wire runs into. A short cable run runs out of here and goes straight into the Shimano CUES rear derailleur. So not only do you have electronic shifting and the ability to pretty much run any rear derailleur, because it's not actually the derailleur that's controlling the shifting, it's this Magene box back here that is basically pulling a cable with an actuator built into it. So this gives the option to easily find a replacement rear derailleur if something happened to this for an inexpensive price, or you could go with a different one other than the Shimano CUES. But the Shimano CUES is absolutely phenomenal. This is a 10-speed setup, and the CUES stuff is really, really nice. The only downfall of this shifter is it doesn't have a clutch built in. That's the one thing, is I wish I had a clutch to prevent this from bouncing. And that may be something I have to address whenever I start to transform this into a full-on fat tire mountain bike. Because without that, you are going to get some chain bounce, but it's not going to be bad for standard, I would say, adventure style riding. But this setup is great. Wireless Magene, or wired machine setup that's electronic, which gives you some additional advantages because you don't have to actually use this paddle shifter to shift. You can actually just have this bike automatically shift for you, and I'm going to show you guys how that works when we get out on the road. Now, this bike does come with a 80mm Zoom fork that is Aventon branded, and it definitely smooths out the ride. It's a pretty standard fat tire fork. A lot of fat tire bikes in the mountain biking world don't have suspension on them because the tires have such volume that they give you a little bit of a suspension. So in the standard like cruiser style, like the regular adventure bikes like Adventure 2, Adventure 3, they all came with this similar type of suspension. It does have a lockout on it, and it does do a pretty good job, but if you were going to start doing some serious mountain biking with it, you're probably either going to want to go to a rigid fork or find a really good air suspension. However, for 99% of the people out there, including myself, this fork is probably going to be just enough for what everybody is needing. So I think 80mm of travel on this are definitely going to smooth out this ride and give you the quality that a lot of people expect out of an adventure bike. So on this auto shifting, it's actually pretty crazy. It will essentially detect your cadence and the actual power that you're putting into the bike, allowing the bike to kind of intelligently know which gear is best for you and your riding ability. And what's really interesting about this is even whenever you're coasting, this will actually start to shift to make sure that you're in the appropriate gear for whenever you start pedaling. So for example, if you come to a stop at a stop sign, the bike will shift by itself even without you pedaling. And that's thanks to the MidDrive motor with the ability to actually turn the crank without actually spinning the pedals. So think of it as like a freewheel built into your crankset, similar to how your back wheel coasts whenever you're not pedaling. Same concept, just on your pedals instead of in your back wheel. But on this bike, of course, you have it in both, so you can coast and it can auto shift for you. So it kind of just watches everything that's going on around you and senses what the bike is doing, so it can give you the what it thinks is the appropriate gear for your pedaling style. All right, I'm going to attempt to show you this, guys. As we get up to speed here, the bike's going to auto shift. Now, when we get going, watch, I'm not pedaling, just watch the crankset. See how it's spinning? That is actually the auto shifting taking place. That is so cool. Let me see if I can get a better angle for you. Now look at this. See how that's moving that? So you can shift without actually having to pedal. So I'm manually shifting it now, but I don't actually have to pedal to be able to shift. So I can start coasting, shift, and it's just shifting and actually making the gear change for me. All right, guys, real quick before we go any further, I just want to say if you're enjoying my reviews and you're enjoying the Aventon M review, I just ask one favor. Just watch this video all the way through. Lately, that seems to be the only thing the YouTube algorithm really cares about. All right, back to the Adventure M. Now, right now on my bike, I have an Eco, a Sport, an Auto, and then a Turbo. Auto is a new one for me. I haven't ever seen the Auto one before, but essentially what it's trying to do is it's trying to balance itself between all of the different pedal assist levels to give you a more kind of like an auto pedal assist change along with auto shifting. So the bike is like fully automated. It's pretty wild. But if you don't like all the automation, then you can set this up to where the auto shifting doesn't actually take place. And you can also set the pedal assist level to where you're not in auto, where you would be, say, in Eco, Sport, or Tour. But let's go ahead and let's see what eco will get us up to. We're just going to start pedaling. This thing is just auto shifting all by itself, which is absolutely fantastic. Now I've got this set up to be a class 3 bike, and I am in eco, and it's shifting through the gears. I'm currently in gear 8, and I can feel it assisting me, but right now I'm getting about 16, 17 miles an hour. Let's put it in sport. You can definitely feel that A100 motor kick in. It's very responsive with that dual-sided torque sensor. And went to gear 9, and we are gear 10. If you heard it shift there, I can feel it still pulling, and I'm doing 21, 22. Let's put this in turbo. See if it can hit that 28 miles an hour. That motor is really working, guys. I can still feel it. I'm actually at 28.5, 27. So 28 miles an hour. Now I'm in gear 10. I'm slowing down, and this bike will automatically shift down. Gear 9, gear 8, gear 7, gear 6. Drop me down to gear 5, gear 4. This is all based off of the settings that I have set this in. This bike is so advanced, it's absolutely crazy. So not only did we hit the class 3 speeds that we were looking for, and which is exciting to me because I love mid-drive motors, and to have the ability to actually get 28 miles an hour on a bike I can cruise around in the city is a lot of fun. Now, whenever I go out to the trail systems, I'm definitely going to be turning this down, and that's really easy to do inside of the Aventon app. You guys have watched any of my other reviews on Aventon stuff. With the brand new ACU technology that they have inside these bikes, they can manipulate so many things, and it's done really easily and smoothly on the Aventon app. And so changing it from a class 3 speed to a class 1 speed is super simple. Now you might ask, why do you say class 1 and class 3? Well, class 1 is a bike that does not have a throttle. This bike does not come stock with a throttle. You actually have to purchase that separately. And they do sell one, which is really cool because on the Rambless, they do not offer class 3 speeds or a throttle. So with this bike, they knew that the majority of the people were probably going to be cruising around on stuff like this, city streets, community trails, all of that stuff. And to have a throttle is really nice to a lot of people. So it doesn't come with it, but you can purchase it separately. And my suggestion is if you have any thought that you may want the throttle, just go ahead and purchase it whenever you pick up this bike. You can always take it off or put it back on, however you want to do it. So yeah, you've got a lot of flexibility. Not only that, with Ride Tune technology, because of the ACU unit, you can go in and you can customize each individual mode to put out as much or as little torque as you want. So having that customization is such a cool option that not really many manufacturers are offering, but Aventon has probably the most advanced, I would say, control over your motor, even more so than some of the really big brands like Bosch and Shimano. These motors on the Aventon are super customizable, giving you a lot of flexibility. And not only do you get the control ability of being able to actually change out and modify how the actual power is delivered on this bike and how much speed you can actually get, you also get the ability to be able to lock this bike up. Because of the ACU technology, they have a built-in lock on the back of the bike. So on the back wheel, same side as the disc brake, there's a lock, and you can lock that whenever your bike is turned off, or you can manually lock it through the software whenever you want. This bike weighs about 73 pounds. So with a locked wheel, there's no way somebody's going to be able to carry this bike very far. Now, this particular screen that is on this bike, it's their newer screen, but it looks similar to the last one that was on the Adventure 2. However, they got rid of the matte finish and they went to a gloss finish. It just looks a lot brighter and cleaner. Now, this does come with some really nice brakes on it. These are the SRAM DB4 brakes. These are true mountain bike brakes. They use mineral oil. They're very, very nice. All right, we're gonna get it up to speed here and we're going to do the brake test. Woo, this motor's quick. Here we go. Brake test, go. All right, guys, that was by far the best braking that I've ever experienced on any of the bikes that I've tested on this test. There was an easy 6 foot in front of me. I think the best prior to this was somewhere around 3.5 feet. These SRAM brakes did not disappoint. There are a few things that I am super appreciative that they did do on this bike. And the number one thing, other than the motor, is the through axles. Putting through axles on front and back really makes this bike even more sturdy. You're going to have Novatech hubs with through axles, which is going to give you the strength to give you the actual mountain bike style setup that you would need. So with that said, you could upgrade these wheels because they provided them with through axles. Now, there's one thing that I have to complain about on this is compared to the Adventure 3, this mid-drive motor is quite a bit more noisy. You do hear it a lot. The Adventure 3 with the rear hub motor is almost nearly silent, which is very, very nice. Both motors are very impressive. Both motors are 36 volts and both are going to give you plenty of torque. It just depends on what you're looking for. The sensitivity of the torque sensor on the mid-drive motor and the ability to actually truly make this into a fat tire mountain bike really gives the edge to the mid-drive motor. But the Adventure 3 has that silent feel. I would say if you are going to be cruising around city streets, consider both. You know, have the pros and cons of each one. One of the big benefits of having a mid-drive motor is the wheels are pretty standard. You don't have to worry about having a motor in the back wheel. So if you ever have to have the back wheel replaced, it's much easier to find a replacement for it. But you are going to get a little bit louder motor on the mid-drive. All right, out here on this ride, guys, I'm having so much fun. I absolutely love this bike. I've always liked these adventure bikes, but now it has this mid-drive motor. It's just that much more exciting to me because I know the potential of this bike. As you can see, this comes with some nice fenders, a rear rack. You've got them both front and back. Really, really nice setup. However, if you want to make this into a mountain bike, those are going to have to be deleted. And that's going to be a project that I'm going to be working on my RunBikeMike channel. So if you didn't know, I've got another channel called RunBikeMike, and it's the one that I originally started with. If you guys want to see that transformation and see how well this thing mountain bikes, that's the channel you're going to want to go over to because that's where I'm going to be doing my mountain biking stuff. But for now, let's just talk about this. You've got metal fenders. These are the standard Aventon branded fenders, both front and back. The awesome Aventon rack. This rack holds up to 59 pounds, has mounts for pannier bags. And then you have the Aventon branding back here on this particular fender. Now, if we look down here, you are going to get the Aventon taillights. These are not brake actuated. They will do turn signals and they will show up whenever you actually have the headlights on. So you got turn signals and you've got rear indicator lights. Down here is the awesome SRAM discs and the SRAM 2-piston hydraulic brakes. These things are super nice, but check this out. This is the lock I was talking about. This will actually allow you to lock your bike. A metal piece from inside the frame actually goes into these holes, preventing this from actually being able to roll. Now, this particular color is the basalt color. It is my favorite. It is the one that I chose, but you can get this in 2 other colors. I believe there's a camouflage color that also looks really, really awesome. Down here is the ACU unit. This is super important because from talking with Aventon, having the ACU unit built into your bike allows you to get so many future upgrades that Aventon is coming out with. So being able to also track your bike through 4G technology and also be able to lock your bike via this lock, it just allows so much customization. Whenever you update anything in the Aventon app, it's going to update the ACU, it's going to update the motor, the controller, the display. This allows Aventon to talk with all of the components to make sure that they are working optimally. And this is really cool because it has that 4G technology built into it for tracking. Your first year is going to be free, but every year after it, it's only $20 a year to be able to track your bike and not have to worry about it getting stolen. And if it does, you can let the authorities know exactly where it's at, because it's kind of like an Apple Find My, but even better because it's got its own 4G chip. It doesn't rely on other phones. It actually will just be able to track it through the cell phone towers. So as long as there's cell service, they will basically be able to track where that's at. And a thief can't take that out, because if they do, the whole bike doesn't work. But down here, you do have a removable 36 volt battery, and it's 20 amp hours, which is really big for a kind of a mountain bike style setup. But it's a similar battery to what we see in all of the brand new Aventon bikes. I'm a big fan of the 36 volt system. And I know that there have been some people that have been critical about it, but honestly, like, having a 36 volt system means that you're going to have a really light battery. And Aventon has really kind of almost mastered the ability to be able to give you optimal power, but also conserve on the weight because of the 36 volt system. Everything's a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter in a 36 volt system. And if you look at like standard mountain bikes, all mountain bikes run a 36 volt system. So this MidDrive being 36 volt fits in perfectly in that mountain biking category also. With a 20 amp battery on this, they're estimating about 80 miles of maximum range. Now, of course, that varies all depending on your riding conditions, your rider weight, how much cargo you're holding, and also what the terrain is like. Now, this will hold up to 400 pounds. It's got a massive payload. So if you want to carry yourself along with a whole bunch of stuff on the back, you're going to have plenty of capabilities to be able to do that. Now we can take a closer look at these DB4 brakes. These are super nice. Now they used DB8 brakes, I believe is what it was, on the Rambless. They switched to these DB4s. These are super nice brakes made by SRAM. Good lever pull. And they also have a bleed port right here for mineral oil. You are going to get the headlight. Looks like I got the sticker still on it. Actually haven't used the headlight just yet. So make sure before you use it that you peel that little sticker off. But you do get a nice kind of like upsweep bar, making it super comfortable. And then if we look at the front here, you are going to get these nice lock-on grips. They're single-sided. You do get your standard Aventon control pad right here with your turn signal buttons, your power button, your up and down pedal assist button. And then here, and we'll go into more details on this menu system, but you get the nice Aventon screen right here. Now, taking a closer look at this, we showed you guys this earlier. You're up and down for shifting, but you don't have to worry about it because you don't have to shift if you don't want to. But there is a button back here that will actually kind of flip through some extra stuff on this screen, and I'll show you that whenever we go inside here in just a little bit. But there is a closer look at the Aventon 80mm Zoom brand fork. This is going to be a good fork, and you're going to get the through axle right down there. You do have Novatech hubs, both front and back, along with these awesome 26x4 tires. These are similar to the ones that we saw on the Adventure 3. Really, really high quality stuff here, guys. One last thing before we get going, you do get the new suspension seat post, which is really nice for those rough trails that you're going to be on. Just gives you a little bit of extra cushion on the seat. Let's go ahead, let's conquer the big hill and see how this MidDrive motor actually handles it. I think it's going to crush it. Let's go. So as you guys know, if you've watched my videos long enough, this hill is the hill that I do all my climbing on. It's a 19% grade. Doesn't ever look that steep on camera, but it is steep. It's long and very steep. So there's a driveway up here that it'll hit about 19%. I'll kind of commentate as we go up there, letting you guys know how this goes. I'm going to change my setting to indicate what gear I'm in, because I think that's very important for this test. We're going to go ahead and make sure that it's in turbo. I am at 50% battery. I haven't charged this bike but one time since I got it, and looks like I've got 30 miles on the odometer. Now, most of my riding has been really casual, really light, mostly in eco and sport, and some in the auto mode. Yeah, this will be the first big push that I've had on this bike where I'm really trying to climb a hill as fast as I can. But my main goal with these type of tests, if you're not familiar with them, is if a bike can reach the top of the hill and not go under 10 miles an hour, I classify it as a good hill climber. I will be utterly shocked if this bike has any issues with it at all. This motor is a phenomenal motor and has no problem pushing this bike on flat ground. And I don't think it's going to have any problem pushing it up a hill, considering I've done some pretty aggressive mountain biking with this motor on the Ramblus. And it's the exact same motor, but actually beefed up, because now this is considered a class 3 bike, where the Ramblus is only a class 1. So we should be able to get over 20 miles an hour before we even get to the 3 or 4% grade. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this started. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get it. It's gonna shift for me. We're down in gear 5. We're gonna start pedaling as fast as we can. Shifting 17 miles an hour, 18 miles an hour, 19 miles an hour, 20. I saw 20. We got up to 20, almost 21 before we made it to this hill. I'm in gear 9. So we'll see how well this auto shifting shifts under massive amounts of load. There we go, gear 8. We're at 16 miles an hour. This is where it's gonna get steep. We're about 15% here. This is gonna be the challenge for this bike. There's shifting, you can feel the power cut out a little bit. Gear 7, gear 6, 10 miles an hour. Ooh, the auto shifting is kind of hampering us a little bit. But look at that, I'm at 19% grade. Got me down below to like 7 miles an hour. But once it found the gear it needed, it's pulling me up this hill no problem. I would be very curious what this thing could do with the throttle. Now, I think that if I shut off the auto shifting, I could get up that hill even faster. I should be able to keep it in a nice gear to hopefully maintain my speed. In gear 7 right now, gear 8, shifts quick, but as soon as I get a little bit of challenge here, I'm going to shift it down. Struggled a little bit to shift down. Getting close to the 19% grade. Just gonna go ahead and put it in gear 5, 14 miles an hour, 13 miles an hour. This is definitely much better. 12 miles an hour, 13 miles an hour. Okay, so there's the conclusion. If you live in an area with giant hills, maybe the auto shift isn't for you. But the electronic shifting manually works really good. And you can control it precisely to what you want. Now, with that said, you can still manually shift with auto shift on. I just didn't want to be in a situation where it was going to automatically shift for me when I didn't want it to after I manually shifted it. All right, let's go ahead and check out the menu system on the bike itself. If you hold down the plus and minus buttons, it'll take you into a menu here. You can clear the trip. You can lock the battery to basically unlock it to be able to release it. This is always called battery lock, but really it's unlocking the battery. And then you've got the bike lock, which if you activate that, it locks the rear wheel. Then you've got the ability to display different units from miles an hour to kilometers per hour. You can adjust the brightness on the screen. Right now I've got it set to level 5, but you have several different levels that you can choose from, all depending on your personal preference. And then you've got your auto power off setting. By default, this is set to 10 minutes. I believe you can go all the way up to 60 minutes. Let's see here. You can disable it, and 99 minutes is the max. So you can have this to where it doesn't shut off or have quite a bit of range between it powering itself off. Next thing is the auto shift. You can actually go in here and fine tune some stuff if you want to turn the auto shift on, if you want it to be looking at your cadence or your torque limit, and then you can go from there. So we'll turn it on, and then you can set up your cadence on how many RPMs or revolutions per minute, how many times you're turning over the crank pedals. You can do that here, which is nice that you don't need the app to be able to do any of this. And you can turn on whether you want it to pay attention to the torque limit whenever it goes to shift. And then also you can set up a password, which is really nice. So you can software lock this and hardware lock it by using the lock mechanism on the back wheel, but you can also software lock it. So if somebody turns this on, they have to enter in a specific password, kind of double security. Then you get to look through an error history screen. If you ever have any issues, you can go back and check out the screen. And if you need to send anything to Aventon to show them that, hey, you had an error on the screen, this is what it was, that'll give them all the information they need. Then you've got some basic system info. Then you can connect to the app. This is where you would go the first time you actually use this. This will pop up a QR code, and then you scan that within your app. Now that we've looked at this menu system, let's go ahead and open up the app and check it out. Okay, now that we're inside the app here and you've got your bike set up through using the QR code that was on the screen, let's go over some of the menu settings that come on this app. So you're going to get some basic information like being able to power on or lock or unlock the bike, along with turning on and off the headlight and tail lights. But the most important thing is going to be in this more settings. This is where you're going to get a lot of the controls we saw on the display, but you're going to get even more ability to be able to fine tune it. Of course, you've got your brightness right at the top, so you can quickly adjust that. Your auto power setting is going to be next, so you can adjust your auto power however you want that set up. The big thing here is going to be the assistant level. That's going to be where you're going to go into ride tune. Now, if you're not familiar with Aventon's ride tune, ever since they put in this ACU chip, you can actually go in and customize how much power each pedal assist level gives you. This is a super nice setting because you may not want your eco to be as low powered as what they have set from the factory. For instance, right now it's 40% assistance, 70% torque, or 70 Newton meters torque, and 100% pedal response. Maybe you want that to be 80 Newton meters for torque. You can go in there and you can adjust it. And the nice thing is you can save profiles so you can play around with them. And then if you get kind of mixed up and you're not really sure you want this to go back to the factory, you do have a factory reset button that basically puts everything back to the factory settings. Now, once you've kind of played around with that, you can see there's a chart down here that will give you kind of a good guidance to how much power you're going to have, how much range you're going to get, how much battery and smoothness you could potentially have. This is a really cool little chart, makes it super easy visually for you to be able to see what's going on with each one of the different settings. You can change what pedal assist level you're in on this setting here. I don't really ever use that here. I always just use the control on the actual bike. You can change the speed limit metrics. This is where you can go in and you can actually set this to a class 3 speed bike, which I've done here at 28 miles an hour. You've also got an alarm setting. So if somebody does try to take off with your bike, it'll sound an alarm. Here is the uphill assistance. This is a really cool feature. It gives you extra assistance to go up a hill. You've got different settings from 1 through 5, 5 being the most assistance, 1 being the least. And then if you have it off, you don't get any extra assistance. I recommend just having that on. It's a really nice feature to have. And right underneath the uphill assist is going to be your auto shift settings. Here you can turn it on. You can set your cadence, and then you can also set up the sensitivity level of this. I personally put this at 5. I wanted this thing to be able to shift as fast as possible. And there is quite a bit of a drastic difference between 1 and 5. I recommend putting it on 5. It just seems to shift a lot faster and a lot more smooth. Then you can also set the torque limit on here if you want to do that to kind of protect your drivetrain. The lower the number, the more power it will cut when it goes to shift. So basically think of this as a motor cutoff. As you're pedaling, it would drop it down to, in this instance, 10 Newton meters and then shift, where if you scroll all the way up, it'll go 60 Newton meters and then it'll shift. I personally just have it off just because I found through my testing that it actually shifts faster with this off. I'm not concerned about wearing out the drivetrain or anything like that. But if you are concerned about that, turn that on and put it all the way down to 10. That'll be the easiest it can be on your drivetrain to have auto shifting on. Now you do get the ability underneath here to calibrate the crankset. And basically what this is going to do whenever you first set this up, you'll see this. Whenever you go into it, it'll ask you to put the left and right crank arm at the 12 o'clock position, and it'll capture that. And then it'll memorize where that position is. So whenever you go to spin the pedals, it will know when to shift at the appropriate time. Then you've got your eShift calibration. This is where you can reconfigure it, kind of go in and dial everything up. Down below here, you've got the power off lock setting. This is a really cool setting. I don't have this turned on my bike yet, but I do plan on turning this on. And so anytime I turn my bike off, it would automatically lock. You can turn on the security verification if you're kind of in an area that you want to make sure that if somebody did take your bike, that every once in a while they would have to go through a security verification to be able to turn the bike on. This is kind of a nice safety feature to prevent people from being able to use the bike if they do actually wind up taking it. And then you do have the ability to set up unusual activity detection and the sensitivity of that. Next up is you got a clear password setting, and then you've got some geofencing. If you want to set up a geofence around your house or maybe around your office, and then if the bike gets, say, moved off of a bike rack, whenever you're away from it, you'll get alerted as soon as it goes outside that geofenced area. Down below a little bit further, you get to update your firmware. You can do backup and restore. If you've messed up all your settings and you want to just basically go back from the beginning, you can do that. Then you've got your IoT services. This is where you would go in and actually set up and register everything for this bike. And then you also have transportation mode. This basically will prevent it from acting like it's being stolen. You would turn that on if you're going to, say, be traveling with this. So that is the app. It's got a ton of settings for you to be able to go through and kind of customize this and dial it in. That is what the Aventon ACU unit is all about, being able to really customize this bike. So there you go. That's the Aventon Aventure M, and I am super stoked to have this bike with the A100 motor. I love this mid-drive motor, and it's just a super fantastic bike. The auto shifting is cutting edge. The brakes are fantastic, and just this motor really does make this bike my favorite fat bike on the market, hands down. I'm going to be doing some modifications to this to make this an even better mountain bike, and I can't wait to do it because I haven't actually ridden a true fat tire bike on a mountain bike trail. I've taken some of these on trails before, but never actually took it out for a true mountain bike ride. And that's what I plan on doing with this Adventure M. This bike absolutely blew me away. For $26.99 full retail price, I think that this bike is absolutely phenomenal. It's basically a fat tire Rambless, and I am absolutely loving it. Can't wait to get out on the trails on this and ride this on more adventures. If you guys want to pick yours up, definitely use my links down below. It helps out this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. But as always, get out there and ride your e-bike.